You are watching your award-winning cable access station, Channel 13 and 19, Athol Orange Community Television.
Welcome to Quabbin Valley Health Links, a presentation of Quabbin Valley Healthcare in partnership with AOTV. This program is designed to link members of the community to health-related resources available in and around your local community. We serve to provide information on healthcare-related matters and other resources so you can make better, more informed healthcare decisions. Please visit us at qvhc.com for more information. Welcome to Quabbin Valley Health Links. I'm Michael Kachdoorian. Today's guest is attorney Jim Miller from the law offices of James A. Miller in Worcester, Burlington, Framingham, Leominster, and Gardner. Attorney Miller, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So your law office specializes in nursing home planning, estate planning, and estate administration. And I understand your mission is to provide families with quality estate and Medicaid planning services. And among some of those resources is the need to plan for illness or unexpected circumstances. So today I thought we could specifically talk about the importance of a healthcare proxy, designating a healthcare proxy, what that process is, and why it's so important to do that before something happens where you can't put such a document in place. And also, talk about some other documents that we should be looking at too, like a durable power of attorney or a guardianship and a living will.
Okay.
So before we get into the specifics of those documents, why is advanced planning for an unforeseen medical issue or a life event so important?
Well, advanced planning is important because when you seek to designate someone to act for you when you cannot act, you want to make sure that that person understands clearly that you have some very definitive ideas about what should happen to you if you're unable to communicate effectively due to a medical condition. And most people think, well, my spouse can do it for me, or my parents can do it for me, or my adult children will do it for me.
Right.
But they're technically not allowed to by law. And if you don't plan in advance, the state actually has a plan for you, and it's called guardianship or conservatorship.
I see. And so what age, or is there a defined age that someone should begin doing this, or is it something that just happens as certain things in life happen?
Well, we always look for milestones in life. So obviously when you're 18 years old and you have no assets, someone should be able to make decisions for you. But people look to the milestones in life when they first start acquiring assets, when they buy a house or a condo, when they get married, when they have children, things like that, when they retire. These are the milestones in life that tend to focus people on the need to plan.
So as it relates to health, first and foremost, before we get into some of the other aspects, a healthcare proxy document, what exactly is that? And why should we implement that sooner rather than later? Well,
let's use you and me as an example.
Okay.
I state, my name is James Miller. I'm of sound mind and body, and I want to make a Massachusetts standard healthcare proxy or healthcare durable power of attorney, and I nominate you to be my healthcare proxy, in case I'm ever incapable of being able to make a decision regarding my healthcare, an informed decision. And a doctor would make that decision, a medical doctor would make that decision. Here is what I want done. Do I want a mechanical breathing machine? Do I want artificial hydration or artificial nutrition? Do I want to be kept alive on a heart-lung machine? Do I want, and you can pick what you want. And the idea being, if I can't communicate and a doctor says he is no longer able to make informed decisions regarding his health, you will be able to pick up my healthcare proxy and say, okay, I understand now what Jim wanted. And then I can speak for him. So I can tell the doctor, yes, he would want this, or no, he wouldn't want this.
I see. So I think people might believe that their spouse or someone else in their family just is an automatic default to make those decisions when somebody's in the hospital, but that really is not the case.
That is not the case if you have not appointed someone and signed and had the document witnessed. then you don't have a healthcare proxy. Your spouse is not legally allowed to speak for you. Now, in many cases, spouses are involved in the decision making, but you will not know whether or not a doctor follows your wishes, unfortunately, until it might be too late.
I see.
Your loved one might be in an extremist situation, and then you can't make decisions for them. The doctor might not listen to you.
So if that's the case, what happens next? So if I'm in the hospital, I've become incapacitated, I didn't plan ahead, I'm sick, how do I get cared for?
Unfortunately, at that point in time, the doctor will use his judgment or her judgment and give you the treatment that he or she believes is best for you. And doctors go to medical school to learn how to save lives.
Right.
In certain situations, we may not want our life prolonged. It's really, at this point in time or at that point in time, it would be about the quality of life that you can lead. So for instance, if someone has had a brain tumor or someone has had a stroke and they are fully immobilized and they're 85 years old and the doctor comes to the spouse and says, look, there's no chance, that the best we can hope for in this situation is a persistent vegetative state. Most people would opt not to live that way. However, the wife or the husband may not be able to make that decision. So the doctor is going to treat the patient, and the doctor is going to treat the patient to try to keep the patient alive.
Okay.
And what we are looking for is to have that patient, when they're well, make that decision, and more importantly, communicate that decision in writing and to the person they want making that decision for them.
So I would assume that the healthcare proxy allows the decisions to be made, but how do you specifically make those wishes known? Is it a living will? Is it a different document, so that when the healthcare proxy situation comes up and you have somebody designated, I know exactly what somebody wants followed? So
the healthcare proxy, there, as you can imagine, there are many, many different types of healthcare proxies. We happen to use a very comprehensive one, and it goes through about 40 different states of being, which I will not bore you with. But it says, for instance, if I am ever in a persistent vegetative state with little or no chance of recovery, what do I want done? And then it goes through a list. Would I like the mechanical breathing? Would I like forced feeding? Would I like forced hydration? And you actually sit down and you say, well, you know, I would like this, I would not like this, I would not like that. But that document is a living document.
Okay.
Because I'm 53 years old, and at 53 years old, I can tell you right now, I'd like everything done. But when I'm 83 years old or 93 years old, I might not want everything done.
Good point, right.
So you need to have these things constantly reviewed, updated, make sure they always fit what you want done.
And if I don't have, when does the guardianship come into play? So is it because I don't have these things in order, or describe, you know, the need for pursuing guardianship?
So I'll use myself as an example. God forbid something happens to me. My wife shows up at the hospital. The doctor says we have to rush him into surgery. She says, what can we hope for? He says, the best we can hope for is a persistent vegetative state. She says, please don't do the operation. The doctor says, are you his healthcare proxy? She says, I'm his wife. I've been married to him for 27 years. He says, I'm sorry, we're going to do the operation. So then she's going to have to go for guardianship. Now, that is not the time that you want to go for guardianship.
So what's the process then? I'm assuming it's not easy.
A guardianship takes between 2 and 6 months to get.
Okay.
You have to have a medical certificate from a doctor or a clinical team saying that you are in fact unable to make decisions for yourself. You have to have a bond posted for the guardian. You have to serve the incapacitated person in hand by an independent third party. You have to notify the heirs at law. You have to nominate a guardian, and the guardian has to go before the court. And that takes between 2 and 6 months.
Wow. Okay. And cost, is there a cost associated with this? Is this something that the state pays for? Or?
It is not something that the state pays for. Unfortunately, the cost of guardianships, you can plan on spending around $4,000 to become someone's guardian, uncontested, nobody battling you.
Okay.
Now, if you're lucky, it's less, but that's what you should plan on spending. That's why we tell people, if you plan in advance, you can have this done much, much less expensive and the way you want it, because we don't want the court using its substituted judgment.
That's right.
We want someone you know, someone that you've spoken to, using their substituted judgment.
And when is it necessary, or do any of these documents cover financial situation. So if somebody is incapacitated, we have the healthcare proxy in place, or we have a guardianship in place, does that automatically allow that same person to administer the financial?
No, finances and physical well-being are separated in Massachusetts. Okay. So the healthcare proxy would take care of physical well-being, and finances would be either a durable power of attorney or a conservatorship.
Okay.
Massachusetts, if you take care of the person, the body, the physical person, and you go to court, that would be a guardianship of the person. If you want to take care of a person's finances, that would be a conservatorship over the person. Durable power of attorney is something else we also advocate having, is a very complex document, similar to the healthcare proxy, only it deals with your finances. If I'm unable to make a financial decision, this is what I want done, and this is who I want to do it. And again, communication with that person is tremendously important. Okay.
And that brings us to, I think, a necessary topic that we should talk about is the discussion. So if you plan on having these documents put in place, oftentimes people nominate somebody to be their healthcare representative, but they don't have a discussion about what exactly that means.
Unfortunately, yes.
And the same thing with the financial representative. So if we take the healthcare aspect first, what should the conversation be? If I'm going to have that discussion with somebody in my family and I want to nominate somebody to take care of my health, what should I be asking them, and how often should I be talking about it?
Well, first and foremost, you have to decide on the proper person. And spouses usually decide on each other. If there's not a spouse, it's usually a child. If it's not a child, it's usually a good friend or another family member. But it has to be the right person. And you have to have that conversation that most people don't want to have.
Right.
Because if I look at you and say, Michael, I want you to be my healthcare proxy, and as you know, I do not want any life-prolonging treatment done. Right. Will you honor my wishes? And of course you want to say yes, but you just can't bear the thought of losing someone that you care about. So you say, well, let's talk a little bit more about that. And that's the way the conversation should go.
I see.
Under what conditions don't you want to have life-sustaining treatment done? Do you want to wait until the doctor says there's no hope? Do you want anything done up to a point? Do you want a trial, and if there's no improvement, and how long should that trial be? And if there's no improvement, then discontinue the procedures. These conversations should be pervasive. They should be ongoing, because people change.
Right.
You may say yes today. You may move to another state tomorrow, and proximity plays a very big role in the healthcare proxy, because it may be a time very inconvenient for you to fly up from Texas and make a decision about me. So these conversations start with, this is what I would like to have done, and you're the person I would like to have do it. Can you do that? Because it's a very big, when you're faced with a decision from a doctor, we need to know from you whether this procedure should be done. And if this procedure is done, the best we can hope for is a persistent vegetative state. Or do you want to not do the procedure, keep the person comfortable, and let them pass away?
Right.
And that's something that most people won't talk about, especially children.
That's right. And I would assume, too, that it's a good idea to maybe nominate more than one person in case the person, your primary designee, something happens to them.
Here's where the difference in durable power of attorney, which is financial, and a healthcare proxy is really apparent. Because you are correct. You always want more than one person. But in a healthcare proxy, you can only have one person at a time.
Okay.
So I would name you, and if you're absent, I would name someone else. In a durable power of attorney, in a financial situation, you can name two people. And two people can be so advantageous in that situation, because one person might say, well, let's do this, and the other person might say, hey, let's slow down and think about this just for a minute. Is this really in that person's best interest? Now, we can informally do that in a healthcare proxy, but there is only one person that the doctors have to talk to, and that is the nominated person.
I see. Now, I think people, this seems very complex. I don't think it's as easy as people might think it is sometimes. And I think a lot of people are defaulting to maybe going online, researching an online resource center for a healthcare proxy, for a living will, for a durable power of attorney, or they're driving to an office supply store and getting those documents. And while I'm sure there's a minimal, standard there, What is the difference between that versus going to an attorney and having the comprehensive conversation, the comprehensive package worked out?
Can I tell you a small story?
Sure.
Nothing to do with healthcare proxies or durable power of attorneys, but the internet is a wonderful thing, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But it's made us think that we're all geniuses because you can look anything up that you want. I have a pool. I had 2 friends call me up and say, hey, let's shut our pools down. Every year I would pay someone $500 to open, $500 to close. They said, let's shut our pools down ourselves this year.
Right.
So I said, that's a good idea. They were engineers, by the way. I said, that's a good idea. I'll save some money. So they showed up on a Saturday morning at my house. I should have known when they wanted to do mine first. I should have known there was a problem. They showed up and they had an iPad. And I said, what's that for? And they said, I've downloaded a YouTube video on how to close your pool. So at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, when I had my pool parts all on my backyard, my wife came out on the deck and she said, I've called the pool company. They'll be here Monday morning. It cost me much more than $500 because they had to put everything back together.
That's right.
These things are complex, and if you don't have someone to guide you, you're going to leave something out that is tremendously important to you. Something as simple as the interaction between antibiotics and pain medications. Everybody wants pain meds. Nobody wants to be in pain.
Right.
But a lot of people say, no, I don't want antibiotics. Well, antibiotics stop inflammation, stop infection, which causes pain.
Right.
So you buy something off the shelf, you're not going to have that knowledge. I tell people sometimes, look, I can give you the plan for free. You pay for the knowledge.
Right.
You pay for the experience.
That's right.
The average healthcare proxy is a page long. Mine's 7 to 9 pages long. The average durable power of attorney is 3 to 4 pages long. Mine's 22 to 28 pages long. And it's not because I get paid by the word. It's because you need everything there. You don't know what situation you're going to face in the future.
Right. So when someone comes to your office and has you draw up all these documents, what's your process to make sure, like you said, these are living documents. So what's your process to keep people looking at these things and reassessing their wishes, reassessing their documents, and being sure that they're up to date?
Well, as you can probably imagine, being lawyers, everything we have is contractual. So when you come to my office and you engage us, we have you sign a contract. And part of that contract says that you will come in every 3 years.
Okay.
The meeting is free. And we sit down for a half hour or an hour, depending upon your needs, and we say, okay, what's going on? And we literally go over the plan that we did 3 years ago and say, does this still meet your need?
I see.
Is your healthcare proxy still living in the state? Has your durable power of attorney changed? Have your wishes changed? Has your health changed?
I see.
Is there anything we need to know that may cause us to have to update this document? And sometimes has the law changed?
Right.
Because
Good
people
point.
don't know when the law has changed.
That's right.
We do.
That's right.
And we send out letters saying the law has changed, and we're either going to have a seminar about it or come on in because it's going to affect you, and you need to know how.
Now, do you take an opportunity to invite the people that are designated to be the healthcare proxy or the power of attorney? Can they come in with their person that nominated them and have this discussion too, if they're comfortable doing it?
We would love it if everyone brought someone in with them. Unfortunately, people who usually plan are older, and their children are adult, and they may have their own children, and they don't have the time to come in. But we have